Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green Pass Gaming. As you can see, there's only two of us at the moment. We should hopefully have Pux joining us, so it might just be a two-man show for a little bit, but I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, as always, my good friend Luke. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, yeah. Apart from being warm. That's just the status quo at the moment, isn't it? So, but yeah, no, all good apart from that. And yeah, it's been quite a good news week, actually. Some cool stuff. Well, cool and not so cool stuff, as I'm sure we'll discuss.
Yeah, it's been busy for a change, actually. I think this is kind of the first week, I think, where it's kind of, we've actually had heavy news since E3 season. Yep. We've had like sprinklings since then, but I think this week's kind of the first time we've had like a fair bit to get our teeth into. So yeah, I guess a couple of things we'll be chatting about tonight. I think first of all, Luke's probably going to get a little bit angry or upset at some Star Wars related news. A lot of sexist pigs got really angry at Rockstar this week. We'll probably be touching on that as well, with a little bit of GTA6 news that came out courtesy of Bloomberg. Obviously, Microsoft made a boatload of money this past quarter as well, so we'll touch on the Xbox financials and then anything else that comes up. So we've got a few people in chat at the moment, though, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I can see we've got Pixel Slapper in there. We've got Ash. Thank you very much for joining me. We've got BMG, as always. I had a wonderful show with the XBL party chat guys on Tuesday with BMG. The conversation went a little west. As you can see, we were talking about milking Batman, which tells you the sort of direction the conversations went. Oh, and Luke is gone, so it is just me. I'll try to hold the fort. So yeah, BMG, a lot of fun on Tuesday, mate. It was great chatting with you. We'll have to get you on this show, I think, sometime soon if you aren't too busy. Now full-time panelist on that show, mate. Congratulations on that. And I think we've got Luke back. Are you there,
right, mate? Yeah. Just testing you.
I think you talk about milk and Batman, and I think it's probably the only appropriate response, to be fair, mate. So, yeah, I'm just seeing Tugu and Ngulu, join us in the chat. So welcome, mate. So Luke is back now. I think just had a couple of technical difficulties. So yeah, so look, I guess just to kick things off, so obviously we had a really good show on Sunday evening where we talked about some of the games that we've been playing last week. So what's been keeping you busy this past week, Matt?
So, not too much at the moment, but I have been playing a fair bit of the Hot Wheels DLC for Horizon 5,
nice.
Which still enjoying a lot. And apart from that, really nothing, to be honest. I mean, I've started a new playthrough of God of War, just because I thought I'd do another one before it releases. Not so much as a refresher, because I remember the story really well, but more just, it's a great game, and they patched it for PS5, so you get 60 FPS, etc. So that's cool. And apart from that, yeah, nothing much really. I'm tempted to get Xenoblade, which comes out tomorrow, I think. Yeah. Although I'm weighing that up because I did get Xenoblade 2 when I didn't finish it, so I'm kind of in two minds about it. Yeah. So maybe not, basically. But yeah, that's been about it. How about you? What have you been playing?
Not an awful lot, actually. I ended up completing As Dusk Falls. I completed that Monday. Obviously, I spoke on the show on the Sunday that I was pretty far through the game at the time I ended up completing it. And we do have our good friend Puxley in the green room there, so let's get him in. Puxley, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Apologies for my delay.
No, not a problem at all, mate. I'm glad you could join us. We thought we were a little worried for a second there, but the show must go on. I believe the same.
Yeah,
is.
Sorry,
so
bit late on a work event, but no, I'm back and ready to talk gaming with you, lovely lot. So yeah, let's crack on.
Wonderful. Well, glad you could join us, mate. A few beverages with the work do, or was it strictly business?
No, I did have 2 beers, I will admit. So I'm not tipsy or anything, but nothing like that because I had to drive home. But no, it was a good afternoon.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it, mate. So what have you been playing since we caught up on Sunday, Pucks? Anything new you've been checking out?
Well, it's not new, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but since finishing Stray, I've actually been continuing through Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Nice.
Lovely.
And I've been enjoying that so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat, mate. Once I've completed Stray, I have made a start, and I'm literally 30 minutes in, though, so I can't really say I've played much. I will be trying to get back to Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. I kind of had to put that down when As Dusk Falls and Stray came out. So, yeah. Has anything else been keeping you busy?
I have tried a tiny bit of the Warner Brothers Multiverses free-to-play Smash clone, if I can call it that. I only played a couple of games of it I don't know, about yesterday or 2 days ago over my lunch break. It's interesting. It's not bad for a free-to-play game, to be fair. It plays quite well. The menu's quite clunky, and I think as the large majority of gamers detest, it's got the typical mouse pointer cursor thing that you control with the left stick rather than just having highlighted buttons that you change between. Yep. And it's so infuriating because
Destiny has a lot to answer for, mate. Honestly.
I've only played Destiny 1 way back, but I appreciate that it had the same at the time. I'm quite surprised it's not been corrected, I guess. But no, it's a system I've never quite understood why that's a thing, especially when, again, in the multiverses thing, it's not even full words in terms of buttons. It's like a very small, thin sidebar on the left-hand side, and it's quite sensitive as well. So you have to kind of half move the stick just to make sure you don't overlap between two different buttons, and it's quite frustrating. But gameplay-wise, it's okay. But again, it's also one of those ones where you I don't know how you do it yet, but you have to unlock certain characters. So I think I started off with Wonder Woman, and you start off with Superman, and I don't know, some other Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers character that I've never heard of. But it's okay. It's not going to kill Smash by in any stretch. But as a free-to-play game, it's not so bad.
Lovely. Luke, have you checked out Multiverses yet? Are you tempted to check out Multiverses, or is it not up your street?
No. To both. I think, I'm really pleased for it because I think there's room in the market for another Smash type game that isn't Smash. Yep. And I think the idea of it being, WBIP based is actually really cool. And surprisingly, because I was really surprised by this, it's very well received, which really shocked me a bit. I just didn't expect it to, be that well received. But like, I don't know. I have Smash, and I just think that's enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's enough for me because I'm not a gigantic fan of that kind of Smash brawler anyway. So just the one on Switch is good enough for me. But who knows? Maybe I'll jump into it at some point, but just I can't see it right now.
Yeah, I checked out a little bit last night. I only played it for maybe an hour or so, Puck, so similar to you. So the way you unlock characters is actually just through gold, or obviously their premium Gleamium, I think they called it, which is the premium currency that they've got. Obviously, it's free to play, so it's got all those bells and whistles. But you can unlock the characters just using gold. It's kind of got a similar model to Apex Legends, where you can pay to unlock them, or you can use premium currency to unlock them, or if you've acquired enough of kind of the free currency, you can use that to unlock the characters. Oddly, though, the characters cost different amounts. Naturally, Batman's more expensive than one of the other maybe lesser known characters. I did earn enough to unlock Batman in that hour, though, so obviously it didn't seem too egregious. But I actually enjoyed what I played. It's certainly the closest thing to Smash I think I've played so far, and it's nice to play Smash online on a different console. One of the reasons I don't play Smash more is because it's limited to Switch, and they're unfortunately shitty online service, so I barely play it, unfortunately, these days.
I know they kept saying in the past that they were bringing out updates to further stabilize the online gameplay in general, but the general back end just seems to be ludicrously terrible.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not great. I think that's just Nintendo Switch Online. So, Ash has a question for you though, Pox. He asks you if you're a filthy Tasman.
Well, I haven't unlocked a lot of the characters yet, so I only played about 1 or 2 games. And Wonder Woman for the first one, because that's what the game kind of gave me. I don't know if
I didn't do the tutorial. Random. So you unlock Wonder Woman when you complete the tutorial. I didn't complete the tutorial. I just went straight in, so I didn't even have Wonder Woman. So
which is funny because during the tutorial you play as Shaggy as well, but then you unlock Wonder Woman. I kind of thought that maybe you'd get given the character you used in the tutorial, if that makes sense. But
there's a couple of characters.
I might be a Tasman. Bugs Bane looks quite cool.
Yeah, Taz, the reason he says that is because they had to nerf Taz because one of his attacks was super overpowered. So they've had to do some Taz nerfing.
I think I read about that, yeah.
Yeah. BMG is asking if Multiverses is free. So yeah, it's free to play. BMG, it's in open beta now. I think it's on all platforms, at least PC, Xbox, PlayStation, I think Switch. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it is crossplay as well if you're interested. So yeah, completely free to play, open beta at the moment. Like I say, usual free to play quirks, shall we say, with the premium currency and battle passes and things like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. If you like Smash games, I think it's at least worth checking out. That's the benefit of free to play games, at least. There's no barrier to entry, so you can just jump straight in, try it out. If you don't like it, you can drop it. But it seemed to be doing pretty good Steam numbers, which was I guess probably good news for WB. We'll see how long it lasts. I think for those sorts of things, it's not how it starts, it's how long that tail is, I think, for a lot of these games. So I think we maybe jump into our first topic for tonight. Luke, I'm going to start with you, mate, because you brought this up earlier in the week, and I know you weren't a happy bunny at some of the news that was released relating to the KOTOR remake. So do you want to fill us in on what the news was and how you're feeling about that game now, mate?
Yeah, sure. So essentially Jason Schreier at Bloomberg confirmed that whilst it's not dead, which is, I guess, good news in a way, it has development has effectively indefinitely paused on it. So it's a really interesting story, actually, in that apparently, so Aspire, well, the developers, developed a fairly recent vertical slice for the game to show off to both Sony and Lucasfilm. And they did that, and then apparently a week later, the company fired their design director and their art director quite abruptly, and just essentially said that it's paused indefinitely. We're going to pursue new contracts in the interim. And that's been kind of it, really. There's not been any further, certainly nothing official has been announced. I think Bloomberg reported that originally the Aspire were telling publishing partners that they were aiming for a 2022 release, but actually they'd got to the point where they said a more realistic release would be 2025.
Oh, holy shit.
So
that's quite the delay.
Yeah, just a huge delay to it. Apparently an inordinate amount of time and money went into the vertical slice, which Aspire kind of head staff felt was bordering on the ludicrous and basically, was not feasible going forward. So Bloomberg don't have all the details on it. They have some. We're not quite sure what torpedoed, the game into a pause. Whether that's actually, the reception to the vertical slice as to where, how that landed with Lucasfilm and Sony, or whether it's, the time and money that was spent on just that section of the game, just that little slice of what it could be. But nonetheless, either way, it's probably a mixture of both. But either way, yeah, it's currently on pause. And it's really interesting because obviously Aspire were bought by Embracer a little bit ago, and Embracer seemed quite high on it in terms of, they said that it was a massive project, it was a full remake. all of which we knew anyway. And they'd even brought Saber Interactive in to help Aspire with the development. So it had significant resources dedicated towards it. So I don't know where it is, what's going to happen to it, whether it will ever see the light of day at this point. But yeah, for me, it makes me really angry in a lot of ways because it's actually one of my most anticipated games. I remember playing the original and KOTOR 2, and they're two of my favorite RPGs of all time. I just think they're just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I was really excited to see, what they would do with this one as a full remake, completely changing, a lot of the concepts of it, gameplay, etc. I'm sure the core story would have remained pretty much the same. I'm just, it just kind of came out of the blue, really, and I don't know quite where to go with it. But I'm hoping they pick development back up. But even if they do, at this point, it's going to be a long time before we see this, as opposed to before, when I think, certainly I didn't think it was going to release this year, but I thought maybe next 2 years was somewhat realistic for it. So that's it basically. But it's frustrating, I think, more than anything, as a fan of KOTOR.
Yeah, out of interest, Luke, what was your sort of? I know obviously you were a fan of the remake, or sorry, the original. Obviously, you were excited for the remake. How were you? Were you sort of cautiously optimistic? Were you super excited for the remake? Just based on who it was being developed by. Did the remake make you nervous? So where were you sitting when it was first announced?
I was pretty excited. I think I was a little apprehensive because Aspire aren't known for any kind of projects of that size. I think the biggest stuff they've done is mobile ports of KOTOR. So they're certainly very familiar with the game, which is great. But obviously, you're essentially saying to a studio, make a new game, because that's what it would be. It wouldn't be, if they were doing a simple remaster, 4K textures, whatever. They would probably get that out quite quickly because they've shown good experience of doing those kind, the Switch ports, for example. Yeah. But yeah, this it was always somewhat surprising, but I kind of, I think for me, I was always more optimistic about it because even though that's very true that they didn't have experience, doing this kind of remake project, everybody has to start somewhere. And obviously they were backed by Lucasfilm doing it. Sony had stepped in, clearly to provide some sort of funding as well. Acquisition by Embracer, I'd known about the Saber Interactive stuff as well. So, it all sounded quite positive, and it sounded like there was kind of a lot of goodwill and a lot of excitement about the project on the development end as well. So that kind of got me in a place where I was fairly comfortable that we were going to see it, but, I just thought it would take a little while. But seemingly, it's actually in a place where it's just garbage, apparently. I mean, it just, it's incredible that they produce this vertical slice and a week later, they've fired two heads of the development team effectively. Which, how bad must that vertical slice have been? It must have been terrible. And usually those are the things that are the most impressive about the game at any point in its development, if you make one, because you're putting all your resource into a very narrow narrow slice of gameplay. Sometimes, and a lot of the time, those slices look better than the final game. So God knows what they did. It must have been a disaster.
I would love to get my hands on that vertical slice.
Yeah,
I would just like morbidly curious to play whatever it is that led to a project being essentially canned. I appreciate it's not sort of fully cancelled, but indefinitely paused, and leading to two of the heads of the project being fired. It just sounds. I don't think we hear that sort of thing that much. When a game's indefinitely paused or cancelled, I think that's quite a rare thing and almost quite a big announcement, especially for a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a tiny little game that no one's ever heard of. This is Star Wars, and it's KOTOR, one of the most beloved RPGs from the original Xbox. Made by BioWare, one of the most beloved developers in the world, or at least were once upon a time, I guess. It was a little bit surprising. And then, as you said, look, the news about it being 2025 at the earliest, or however they phrased it in the article, was just like, how is this game ever going to come out in 2022 if that's what was their original name, if they were only producing that first vertical slice? Didn't they say it was presented like June 30th, so within the last month or so? I think they said it was
exactly.
going to be. I'm not too sure in what world that game was probably ever going to be able to make 2022, but as you say, 2023, maybe 2024, but 2025 just seems so far off. I've just seen Ash's comment from Ash that says he looks forward to playing it a week before Elder Scrolls 6, which or maybe even Fallout 5.
I was going to say a week before Fallout 5 at this rate.
Exactly. Pux, how are you feeling about the KOTOR remake, mate?
I'm not a massive Star Wars fan anyway, and I didn't play much of the original, although I am aware that it's much beloved amongst the Star Wars community. So I'm not disappointed for me, but I am disappointed for a lot of people out there who I know were really looking forward to this game. And I believe, from at least the impression I got from just seeing things online, this particular Star Wars title seems to have the most hype behind it out of many other Star Wars games which have come out in recent years. So I do feel sad for the people who were looking forward to it and seeing this, and that is really bad news. One of the things I did find strange when I read the initial article when it first came out was, I know you guys already mentioned about, the lead, 2 different leads got, I don't know if they got sacked or left. The wording was the wording seemed to lead towards they got binned off out of nowhere, and now no one's leading the project in those areas. But it also seemed to kind of suggest, or I can't remember the specific wording, but it was along the lines of, they're now kind of looking for other development or investment opportunities, or it was some wording like that, or like other projects that they're kind of looking to working on. So I don't know whether or not it was more of a, we're stopping this because we've had to bin off our leads, or maybe that was one reason, but maybe there's another reason, kind of higher up the chain, as to why the projects had to be indefinitely postponed for the near term. I don't know. It just felt quite cryptic, and like there was more kind of going on than it was alluding to. Which kind of seemed a bit mysterious to me. But again, being not only from the franchise it is, but the specific game that was being remade that I was looking forward to, and now this is happening to it, I can only imagine that many people are going to be up in arms, like, oh, Christ. Like, people are going to be starting to think, oh, can you not give it to someone else? And obviously, I imagine there's going to be plenty of people out there which probably don't want to take on someone else's regurgitated project. They probably want to start it off from scratch, which is usually the case. But yeah, no, it's sad, really. I don't have any specific thoughts of my own in terms of feeling disappointed, because it's not a game I would have jumped to immediately anyway. But no doubt I would have played it at some point. I'm one of those people, similar to things like Elden Ring, I guess, where it looks good, but then the hype also helped push me onto the game quicker than I probably would have done initially, and I really enjoyed it. So if this was the kind of game where it was coming out to release, everyone's hyping it up, and it's all over social media in various forms, then I probably would have jumped on it quicker and may well have enjoyed it. But no, it's a shame it's come to this. But yeah, it just seems like there's maybe more going on underneath than what what is just stated, rather than just 2 leads going. But no, it's bizarre. I'm not quite sure what else to say, really.
You touch on a couple of good points, though, Pux, because the article does mention, and Luke touched on this earlier, that let me just find the word, and it says that the project is on pause and that the company will look for new contracts and development opportunities, which kind of indicates they're kind of moving on. But then also further down the article, which I imagine these two are linked, it does also say that, and I actually forgot that this was the case. Look, I don't know if you remember this, but Saber had been brought on to assist with the development not too long ago, apparently. I missed that. Apologies, mate. And the article does mention that maybe Saber would just simply take over the development completely. So maybe Aspire move on to whatever these other opportunities are, and then Saber takes over. So would you be more excited for a Saber developed remake of KOTOR?
Well, yeah, on paper, I guess, just because Saber have a history of being able to port, not just port games, but actually develop games as well. They're clearly, I think, a bigger studio with a lot more experience in that kind of AAA realm. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
It would make more sense, I suppose. I think they're pretty enormous as well, and I'm almost certain. I think Saber's the one that Tim Willits from id, when he left id, he went there to be their creative director or like their head. So they clearly have a lot of experience and a lot of development talent. So maybe that's it. Maybe they just thought, actually, you know what, Aspire are garbage. Like, this isn't proceeding in the way it needs to. So we want to keep the project alive, but we don't want Aspire to work on it anymore. Which is bad for Aspire, but potentially good for everyone else. Hopefully, we get something out of it. I think. And I don't mind it taking a long time. Like, that doesn't really bother me. I just want them to make it, really, and make and have it be a good project. Because it's it's such a great game, and I think more people should experience that. And it's been so long, really, since it came out now, that a remake project would be right up there with, Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Is that kind of really basically a new game? So, it's going to be interesting. But I think the unfortunate thing about all of this is we're unlikely to hear anytime soon about what's happening to it. It might be that they come out one day, and say, yes, it's still in development. Saber, Interactive are leading development now. Much in the same way, that Metroid Prime 4 went dark for forever. And then, Nintendo came out and said, yes, it's, still being made, but Retro are making it. So, fingers crossed, basically. But it's disappointing, because it was such a big reveal as well. I think at the show, the PlayStation showcase, it was the first game they revealed, and it was quite shocking, given its backstory is essentially an Xbox exclusive, for that to be, kind of the inverse now. I mean, it's going to PC as well, but and clearly Sony were very excited about it, and I was super excited when they showed it. So it's kind of disappointing now that it's just kind of disappearing off in the ether.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's not canned. Hopefully it does come back in some shape or form in the future. Yep. I guess that's the hope. But whatever happens, like I say, hopefully one day we see whatever that vertical slice is. When these things leak, even if it's some shaky cam footage. I just really want to see what kind of disaster it must have had to have such a catastrophic effect on the project. So. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. We've had a few more people in the chat, so just want to say welcome to Arturo, Trevino, Shadow Mall's in there as well. Thank you both very much for joining, gents. Shadow Mall, I will look into the caption thing. Apologies, I'm not entirely sure if that's possible live. We will look into it though, mate. Apologies for any inconvenience there. So is anything else in particular in the news? Stubbs has just joined there as well. Welcome, Stubbs. Anything else in the news caught your eyes this week?
Nintendo wise, I've got for people that like Mario Kart, the Wave 2 DLC got announced, and 8 new tracks were revealed today. If people care about that at all, I appreciate it's very, very minor news and very specific to those that enjoy a bit of Mario Kart. But I only remember that because I read it about half an hour ago.
I must have missed that, mate. What exactly did they announce?
Oh, okay. So it's all part of the. They had the DLC to have an extra 48 courses added to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But they're doing it in waves 1 through 6, all of which. So wave 6 will be released by the end of 2023, and the pack itself came out March. So that was wave 1, and it's taken about 5 or 6 months since then, whatever it is, to finally release wave 2. So we've finally got kind of the next set of 8 courses, which is a mixture of various remakes of some older Mario Kart titles, as well as some, dare I say, remade from Mario Kart Tour. But I know a lot of people online, myself included, it just looks like a cut and paste effectively from the mobile version straight to this one.
Yeah,
but they all look like good fun to me. And I got it as a birthday gift, to be fair. So I'll be jumping in when that releases on August 5th, August 4th or 5th, one of the two. I can't quite remember, but I know it's one of those 2 days. So anyone who's looking for some more Mario Kart fun, that's coming out very soon.
Very nice. Ash is asking in the chat box, can you buy that on its own? You don't. I know it's included in the extra tier. That the name of that tier is completely escaped me at the moment. But he's asking, can you buy it on its own? I think you can. Do you know?
As far as I remember, I don't believe you can. I believe you pay for all of the content, but obviously you won't get all of the content until it's all fully released over the next year and a half. But I may be wrong on that.
Yeah.
I can quickly.
I think you can buy it separately. You can buy it separately, but it's the same drop rate, as it were, as if you got Switch Online. So if you got Switch Online, you get it included, I think.
Only with the premium version.
Premium,
called.
With premium. Or you can buy the pass, which will get you all the things, but they'll all drop at the same time as the Switch Premium stuff.
Right. That makes sense. So I've honestly completely dropped off I'm going to say Nintendo Switch bandwagon, to be completely honest with you, because I genuinely cannot remember the last time I booted that thing up.
Still collecting dust then?
Yeah, it really is. Honestly, the most I touch it now is to clean the dust off it that collects due to not using it. We just need Breath of the Wild 2 to come out, and then it can finally be removed from its stock. Actually,
that's when you polish the Switch again. Yeah, make sure it still works.
exactly. And I'm not. Well, to be fair, there's a few games this year. So Splatoon 3, I'm pretty excited for. So I will be dusting it off for that. Probably the new Pokemon game. I'm honestly a little sad and ashamed to say, but I can't help myself. The missus will probably want to play it.
I'm a sucker for that as well, to be fair. Yeah. So no shame to be had.
Yeah, definitely Splatoon. Look, I'm really looking forward to Splatoon 3. That looks really good. Again, though, the only thing that really annoys me about is the online experience for Switch. Multiplayer. It's
pretty good for Splatoon, though.
Yeah,
I mean, been pretty solid. I mean, apart from the voice chat stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I'm more referring to kind of just the ability to communicate with friends and having the whole backward. Having to connect it to your phone and all that jazz.
I know it means nothing, but apparently there was a major app update, I believe, earlier this week to make it far easier to connect with, find, and chat with friends. But again, it's all the same problem in that you have to go through an app rather than through the system. So yeah.
Was that because you can search for friends on the app now rather than having to do it on the Switch? So you can add friends on the Switch
difference?
App. I think, if I remember rightly, apologies if I've got that wrong, chat, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think from what I remember reading that was the difference, mate. So,
or you had to tell the other person your specific 16-digit friend code or whatever it was of various mishmash of letters and numbers.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not a code specific to the Switch and not per game like it was in the good old days. I think that was the case on the Wii, wasn't it? Where did each game have its own online code, or did I make that up?
On what? Sorry,
on the Wii. I think it was the Wii.
Yeah, each console, I believe, had its own specific code.
So it wasn't the game. I must be mistaken. For some reason, I thought each game had its own.
No, I think it was console because user accounts weren't a thing, so I believe it was system level in terms of the codes you had to share. I may be wrong, but I believe it's linked to the system in some degree.
I mean, they're still like a good decade or two behind the rest of the guys in that space, which is a bit of a shame. Because especially for a game like Splatoon, you want to play with your friends, you want to be able to talk. It's actually made me consider buying the Xbox headset because you can hook. Yeah, because you can hook 2 audio sources up to the Xbox headset at the same time. So you could Bluetooth to the Switch and then also have it connected to your Xbox console. So I could technically use party chat through my Xbox and then Bluetooth to the Switch for game audio to play with friends, which is what I've done in the past. Well, something similar where I've used party chat, but then just had the audio through the TV. But because you're wearing a headset, you can either barely hear anything, or you have to crank the TV up that everyone can hear everything through your mic. So it's not the most elegant solution, I'm afraid.
I mean, it works, but I mean that's all that's important, I guess. But
I mean, I think that's pushing it. It works, I guess, but there are many. It's
not a clean solution, but it did do the job.
Yeah,
Speaking of news, actually, not to change the subject quickly, but I've just looked up some news which apparently got released 15 and 13 minutes ago, and it's to do with Series X and S upgrades for 2 games, which I believe people like, one of which Luke and I absolutely adore. So one of these, coming out in September, is a free Series X/S upgrade for the Outer Wilds.
Because Anna... Oh, that's right. Annapurna had... So we went live at the same time as that. That wasn't
okay. And alongside What Remains of Edith Finch as well. That's also getting a next gen upgrade, cool. And that's coming to Game Pass apparently.
I think What Remains of Edith Finch is already in, or it was, and maybe it's coming back. It definitely was in the past because that's how I played it.
It at least was, but I mean, the article here is just saying that the next gen patch is also coming to Game Pass, I believe. Nice. Whether or not it's just adding to the current one or it's a new thing, I don't know. But no, that's really cool. So Outer Wilds, as much as I loved it, it did kind of play like ass a little bit.
Yeah, it's not great on console. It's not brilliant. Yeah.
So I think it's a lot better. Is it better on PC then?
Oh yeah.
Or is it quite clunky still?
No. I mean the problem on console is the frame rate, because it's 30 FPS, which doesn't play particularly well. But on PC, you can get 100 plus frames pretty easily. So it's a lot better there. Plus, I think because some of the bits of the game are finicky, I think keyboard and mouse lends itself to that quite well. So yeah, it's just a far superior experience on PC. So I'd expect this one at a minimum to be a 60 FPS upgrade, which will in turn make it a lot more enjoyable moment to moment.
Yeah. Just looking through it here, I guess this is kind of breaking news as we go. So both the base game and the Echoes of the Eye DLCs getting free upgrade on September 15th to support 60 FPS, which is nice. The Pathless is coming to Xbox and Switch. Maquette is coming to Game Pass as well as Switch. Solar Ash is coming to Steam and also Game Pass. Christ, they announced quite a lot. A new game called Flock, which is the multiplayer flying game. Bounty Star. Okay. That might be worth checking out. Look, I know you're obviously, we're all big fans of Annapurna, so feel free to have a little dig through them and let us know if there's anything.
I've just read as well. For anyone who owns Outer Wilds on PS4, you do get a free upgrade for the PS5 version as well, which is quite nice.
Nice.
Stubbs is very excited for the Edith Finch upgrade.
Same with Edith Finch on PlayStation's front. Yeah, you get a free upgrade to PS5 if you own that. That's really cool. There's loads of stuff going on. Maybe that's what we need to talk about. We just keep refreshing the page now and again and see what's new.
I think that's I think that'll be wrapped up because I thought it was on at 9, to be honest. I got my times wrong, I think. It was only meant to be like 15, 20 minutes. They've announced a first-person survival horror game.
Hey.
Surprise. This one with dinosaurs called The Lost Wild. Which is going to be coming out in 2024. So yeah, check those out. We might have to go into that in a bit more detail next time we get together. If anything stands out, maybe get some of the trailers. So BMG, I said hello to you guys at the beginning of the show. I believe I'm not leaving you guys out. I think I said hello at the beginning. So apologies if I did miss you out, mate. But welcome, BMG. I'm not going to ignore you. So it's always cool when we get like some breaking news as we go. But it's hard to concentrate on doing the bloody show and also reading and catching up on everything at the same time. So yeah, definitely be checking that out later.
I know we did actually have some thoughts around the GTA 6 stuff that kind of got announced. Should we start talking about that? Do you reckon?
Yeah, go for it. What has actually been announced, or revealed, or leaked? I guess this week, Pux.
I don't know if it was again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was more of a kind of a random Bloomberg article of kind of various, dare I say, insider information of what the game is most likely going to be like and how it's going to play, and more also around the protagonist. So they've kind of mentioned, again, none of this is official, so we will have to take this with a relatively large grain of salt. But one of the things they did mention was, protagonist-wise, one of the main leads will be a female character, of which the whole industry has gone, kind of gasped at the thought of, oh my God, I'm going to play as a woman in GTA for the first time. Because nobody used cheat codes in Vice City, I assume, so to play them as various characters. But so it's going to have a similar system to GTA 5 apparently, and there's going to be camera swapping. They've said that it's either going to be 2 or 3 characters, and yes, the story is apparently going to align quite heavily onto the female protagonist taking the main lead, is kind of the current understanding. They've also said that again, none of this is official, but there is kind of inference that the setting will be not either in Vice City or heavily based on Vice City and / being expanded upon. But another interesting tidbit which was in the article was a mention of Red Dead Redemption 2, and apparently the development of that game, followed by the support that they kind of gave that game after the fact it was released, apparently there was a lot of lessons learned from that project, which they've brought in heavily into the development of GTA 6. And again, what this means, we don't know, but it seems to refer to there being a lot of lessons learned during that game's development that it's somehow going to help development of GTA 6. But then equally, it also made mention of, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a long-term GTA director or something who left last year or something. And apparently that's the one. But apparently since his departure, there's been the atmosphere in the studio has apparently been a lot happier. But then at the same time, people then question, is this going to, yes, morale is better, but is it going to affect development because the games were kind of made under stress environments, and apparently that's what made them good. It's kind of this really bizarre thing that, because all of our employees are happier in the workplace now, that somehow that's going to affect the quality of the game. It was quite a bizarre reading, really. But so nothing really specific, dare I say, but it was more of kind of, I mean, I know I didn't say it at the beginning, but I suppose you're correct, Scott. It is, I guess, leaks of potential information which may or may not be official, but it does read as if this is the case, if that makes sense. That's quite a long rambling. I tend to do that quite a lot. I apologise, but that was most of what I remember. I don't have the article in front of me at the moment, but what I remember, that seems to be the general gist of what was announced. So yeah, female lead. Yeah. I mean, I don't care, but the gaming industry at large seems to, as I say, gasp at the thought.
Well, yeah, not the industry, but certain people.
Sorry, yes,
in the community. I think it was. I think, look, when Bloomberg are saying it, having interviewed, I think they said 20 different Rockstar employees, past and present, then you can pretty much take it as this is what it actually is. I don't think, Jason Schreier is probably the most reliable source out there for this kind of stuff. So I think, that's what it might change, but I doubt the headline stuff will. And I think it's pretty exciting. I think it's interesting that they've actually made the effort to change their working practices. They haven't just said that that's what they wanted to do, but they've actually put that into action. What it means, for us as gamers is that this is going to take longer, which I think, is disappointing for a lot of people because it's already been a long time since the last GTA. But, we'll probably get a great game out of it, even though it will take a bit longer. I certainly don't think any of the ambition of what Rockstar like to do in their open world games will go away. It will just take a lot longer to actually get to that point, or not a lot longer, but it will take longer. And I think they even said, I think the article even mentioned that, initially the scope was pretty huge for this, in terms of the open world. It was meant to be just a ridiculously big open world, bigger than anything they've ever done for large swathes of land, multiple cities. And they had to actually rein it in and say, no, because we're not going to be able to do that with this new kind of working culture. And bringing on more exec producers, etc., to streamline that and make sure that crunch isn't there, or at least if it is, it's actually limited to right at the very end of development. I think the article said, it talked about Miami, the inference being Vice City, and that it would also focus on the surrounding areas, and then over time they would add to those areas, giving a bit of a full live servicey type vibe, which I'm never a huge fan of, but I think it works in this context. But I thought it was really interesting, the Bonnie and Clyde kind of story. I think there was a tidbit that it's already bigger than the open worlds they've made. It's already got things like more interior locations than any other GTA at this stage in development. And I'm excited. I mean, from a technical standpoint, particularly, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of what Rockstar do. I think everybody knows my opinions on Red Dead 2, but I think you're the same, Scott, actually.
Yeah.
But the one thing you can't say about that game is that the open world is not good. Because it's probably one of the most incredible worlds that's ever been made in a video game. It's just absolutely, from a visual standpoint, and kind of the systems in play, how lively it feels, how polished it is. It's on another level to pretty much any of the game still. Ash's comment is exactly what I think, except the gameplay doesn't put me to sleep. It makes me rage. I just get angry at it, because if I step slightly too far to the left, my mission fails. Essentially, that's a Rockstar game. So that's the big thing for me. I really hope that they try and introduce some kind of mobility into their missions, into their mission design. I'm not saying it needs to be, a immersive sim. I'm just saying that we need to have a bit of freedom in the missions to kind of think about things to do, rather than it being so linear. Just literally kind of, roller coaster ride type stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I thought it was really interesting. Both the change in the working culture and what they're aiming for this game. I'm not usually hugely excited for GTA, but I'm actually quite looking forward to this one, because I think that they're actually going to try and, make it a bit different. That's until, it comes out that it's full live service, and, they're focusing mainly on that. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think,
go on, sorry.
No, go on, Pucks. Apologies,
I was just going to say, can you imagine if it's a live service trying to go for a campaign, and you just got all these live players just ruining the experience for you and just mowing you down as you're trying to do the final mission or something?
That was actually going to be my question, Pucks, actually, because obviously GTA Online's been such a monumental success. And it's probably the reason why it's going to have taken... Well, I mean, by the time this comes out, it's going to have probably been like 11 or 12 years since GTA 5 was first released back on the 360. Believe it or not, Jesus Christ. That's how old that game is. But GTA Online's been such a huge success. And the article, as you mentioned, does touch on the live service elements and expand the map. So do you think the game's going to... is GTA Online going to continue to exist alongside GTA 6? Are they going to release a new GTA Online, or is it going to be kind of one big online game where kind of the lines between the online and the campaign is blurred?
I think it'd be like a version 2, personally. I think it'd be like a GTA Online 2, effectively. Not necessarily that name, but I think with a whole new island and area, and arguably the foundations of the game technically would have been far improved as well. So I would imagine they'd probably want to move over to a better infrastructure, dare I say, and probably support it from there. So build it from the ground up with online in mind, rather than tacking on later like they kind of did with GTA 5 at the time, because it didn't exist from the start, did it? It came out a number of years later, I believe. So
yeah, I think my hope is that they, I don't have a problem with GTA Online at all, but I don't want them to integrate that heavily into the main game. I like that they kept it separate back in the day, but we also have to remember that was a long time ago now, and the concept of live service as it exists now wasn't the same back then. So they might be looking at it and thinking, oh, actually, we want to kind of meld these modes together, which is a very dangerous thing if you do that, because you don't necessarily get a great single player experience from that. But if their idea of a live service as applying to GTA is, look, we have GTA Online, and that's on the new map, and we're going to introduce new areas to that map, and also there'll be kind of an equivalent new area in the single player, with new missions, etc. Then that's great. I think that would be really cool. But we'll see. I don't trust Take-Two too much. Not to try and exploit GTA as much as possible, which, to be fair, it's one of the most successful games of all time. Like, it's not a surprise that they'd want to do stuff like that, because it just makes an enormous amount of money. But I think there's a way and means of doing that and still being really successful and not, impacting the single player experience. That's what I'm concerned about more than anything.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to get excited for GTA. I think I've spoken about my experience with GTA 5 when it first came out, where I bought it because I was really excited to try the heists. And I bought it on the 360, and then the heists weren't there at launch. And then I bought it on the Xbox One, and the heists still weren't in the game at this point. And by the time the heists came out, I had completely dropped it, and I've never played a heist. And I kind of really just fell out of... I mean, to be fair, I've not been that big a fan of the 3D GTA games. I've got a much fonder memory of kind of the old 2D or top-down, not 2D, sorry, GTA games. I remember playing those a lot. The move to 3D kind of, I haven't really clicked with the GTA games in the same way. And it's funny that you mentioned, obviously, us not being particularly big fans of Red Dead 2. The first thing that I thought when Pux mentioned the look and take some learnings from Red Dead, the first thing was just hopefully how to make it fun by not doing what they did with Red Dead was kind of the first thing that came to mind. So yeah, we'll have to see. I think they're going for a female protagonist is a good thing, despite the vocal minority seemingly kicking off because they've never seen or looked at a woman in real life ever. The thought of playing as a woman is just, unheard of for them. I think that could be a good move. As you mentioned, Luke, the whole Bonnie and Clyde thing, or just how that dynamic can change between a male and a female protagonist, I think could be quite interesting. So it'll be good to see how that plays out. And then, yeah, I just look forward to it being in the NPDs for the next 12 years after it comes out, no doubt. I can't remember what GTA 5's up to, but
I think BMG is gonna. We'll take bets now. How many times is BMG gonna buy the game? So I'm gonna go with like 5 or 6 times over the next 20 years. I think BMG will buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to go for double figures. I think he'll buy. Yeah, double figures. He'll buy because he'll just buy multiple physical copies because I think he's that kind of guy. He's just funding Rockstar all by himself. Rockstar and Foster's currently kept afloat by BMG spending habits.
Assuming discs are still a thing by the PS7.
Yeah, that's
it'll all be digital at that point, for all we know.
yeah, we'll see how it ends up. So it's good to get some news. I guess that's the main thing. They kind of announce this in a tweet like a few months back.
Yeah.
Well, they officially acknowledged
that they're developing the game.
Yeah, that the game actually exists in a tweet, which was obviously a little different to what you expect from Rockstar and their games. So
I don't know why it took so long as well, and why they thought that was a big deal, because it's like, well, of course you're making another GTA. Everyone on the planet knows that. You don't have to the thing is that I didn't really get the announcement, because you didn't have to do that to be able to confirm that you're making a GTA, because everybody knew that they were making a GTA. It's just obvious at this point. And so if you're going to actually announce it, then you have to do something like when they announced Red Dead 2, if you remember, where they teased it, and then the announcement was a trailer, and it was like, yeah, we're making Red Dead 2. Here's a trailer, and it looked great. I mean, we found out that the game was shit, but then again, it was exciting at the time. So I'm surprised they just did a random tweet just to acknowledge that it exists. And I remember reading the replies, and people were like, "Really? Like this? Like we've waited all this time, and you're just gonna like this is nothing. It's just absolutely nothing at all." So it's quite weird. But yeah, I hope we'll see it in the next, maybe next year and a half. We might get a glimpse of what it is. How it looks. That
do you think that's got a shot at turning up at the Game Awards later this year, Luke? If it's because did they say 2024 in the Bloomberg article?
I think they did. Yes, I think they might have done. Maybe, although I think GTA is bigger than the Game Awards, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean that
realistically.
But where does it turn up then? Is that just a state of play, or do they do their own thing?
Yeah, I think they'll just do their own thing. I don't think they'll do Rockstar Showcase, here's GTA, goodbye. But I think they might just do what they did for Red Dead, which is just, start teasing it on social media, have a countdown to something, and then drop it. In terms of a trailer, because it's they don't need any other platform for that reveal. It's just too big. So I mean, I'm sure platform holders would absolutely love to get that on a show. Sony, Microsoft, whoever. I think Jeff would have heart palpitations if they came to him and said, we want to reveal a trailer for GTA 6 on the games. But I just don't think it'll happen. I just think they'll do what they want.
Yeah. How was GTA 5 announced? I know it was such a long bloody time ago. Can you remember?
I think they did just. Oh God, what did they? So I remember back in the day on GTA 4, didn't Microsoft do it on stage? The initial.
Yeah, Microsoft had GTA 4 from memory, and I think
was that because
GTA 5.
Yeah, is that because GTA 4 or GTA, I guess in general, was coming to Xbox? Because was GTA 3 on Xbox? Was 4 the first one? So Microsoft made a big deal of it.
Yeah, because Peter Moore had that tattoo, didn't he? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Peter Moore did love a tattoo.
He loved a tattoo.
I will say, I really like Peter Moore. I think the industry is worse off without him in it. Personally, I know he's over. Is he over at Unity now? So I guess he's in the industry, but he's not.
Yeah, he's moved about somewhere.
Yeah, he's not a front facing guy like he was in the past. So.
No. So, but in terms of GTA 5, like in the more recent ones, when the remakes were announced, that was in Sony's camp, wasn't it? It was kind of those kind of, dare I say, rights to kind of advertise it seem to be on PlayStation. So I wonder if that will be maintained with regards to the success of GTA Online on PlayStation platforms, and whether GTA 6 will be a PlayStation showcase thing at some point, perhaps.
I can't see Rockstar wanting to share the limelight with anybody.
At all
their game. Yeah, no, I just can't. I mean, it's one
even
thing,
though anyone's going to buy it anyway.
Yeah, but that's even more reason not to share the limelight, isn't it? Because you might as well just reveal it on your own terms whenever you want.
That's true.
Everybody's going to buy it anyway, but you get maximum eyeballs if you just do it by yourself. So Yeah,
the expectation is that high, isn't it? That they've got to go like the biggest they can possibly go, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I definitely think they'll reveal it on their own terms.
Yeah, and BMG in the chat. Thank you very much, BMG, mate. He's just said they announced it first with the logo, and then a few months later they just dropped a trailer. Which I managed to find an article from GameSpot back in October 25th, 2011, where they simply just show the logo in a tweet, hashtag GTA5, and then the trailer dropped on November 2nd, and that was it. But I guess the game almost transcends games, doesn't it? Like that GTA as a franchise is almost bigger than games in a way. So I guess that's all you have to do when you're as big as Rockstar and GTA.
Yeah.
So I guess I mean, it can't be too far away. I guess later this year probably isn't out of the question entirely. If it's 2024, maybe more likely next year, when they kind of first tease it with something. So yeah, we'll have to see. I just noticed in the chat there, Ash just said that the PS2 trilogy were on Xbox at some point as part of some collection. I'm trying to remember how they did it. I just remember Xbox making a big deal when it came. I'm pretty sure it was to the 360 when one of the games there. And like you said, with the tattoo, so that they did try to make a big deal out of it. So. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh. Yeah, but we've obviously had like I say, a pretty busy week in terms of news. There's probably still a fair bit that we could touch on. Did anything else in particular stand out for yourself though, Luke?
One thing did, which we didn't have on the list actually, but I'm going to bring the first ever PCMR section to this show.
Oh dear.
So yeah, I hope to make it a regular series going forward. But actually, so some specs of NVIDIA's new Lovelace GPU architecture released. Specifically, the specs related to what people think is what will be the 4090 Ti. So the very, very highest consumer level card that NVIDIA will offer based on Lovelace. And it is both quite incredible and frightening at the same time. If it's true,
price tag,
well, that's not. Yeah, that will be frightening, but that's taken for granted, isn't it? At this point. So it's come from very reliable leakers, so it seems pretty legit. But amongst the highlights, I'll give you some of the highlights for this. So apparently, it will have 48 gigabytes of VRAM.
Wow!
On the card at 24 gigabits per second memory bandwidth, which is just the sheer amount of VRAM is just insane. I mean, this is probably more of a workstation card at this point, so I'll be interested to see what it does on games. But by all accounts, the 4000 series as compared to the 3000 series is quite a massive performance gain anyway. So I don't know exactly how this will stack up in terms of moment to moment, but I think I read. I think someone found the first early benchmarks of either the 4090 or the Ti. They'd found that someone had run a benchmark on Control, for example, at 4K DLSS with all the ray tracing maximum and all the settings maximum, and they were getting an average of something like over 160 frames per second. Which is just absolutely bonkers. And another thing about this card, which I found was just, just frightening, is the expected power draw. So as everybody knows, as I'll now inform you, your GPU essentially in your PC takes up the most power draw out of any component by quite a long way, actually. So when you're picking a power supply, you have to kind of base it really around the minimum requirement of your GPU, and usually you'll go above that, to help. The expected total board power required for the 4090 Ti is actually 800 watts, which is absolutely enormous. So
that can't be right.
That's the expected power draw.
Wow.
Which would mean actually you would need at least probably 1,000 watt power supply to even be able to run the card. Because if you had an 800 watt, there's no way that you would get that. Now that's like a rating, so it's not necessarily the case that under full load will draw 800 watts of power, but it means that as a minimum requirement, you would need something around that level to run the card.
So that usually means you need to add your own margin, doesn't it? So
exactly, yeah, you need to add your own margin into that. But that's really frightening at the moment because obviously with the price of energy, if you're putting this card under load, imagine how much power it's drawing at an outlet and the costs of actually running the card. So I'm really excited about it because Nvidia essentially said, look, we're shrinking these the nanometer of these cards all the time, and we're getting big performance gains, but there's only so far we can go with that. So to try and almost get rid of that bottleneck, they're saying, right, okay, let's just untether the amount of power that this card can draw to get even more performance out of it.
How big's this thing going to be, though, Luke?
I was going to hate to see the size of the heat sink.
If they're shoving that much power through it, like it's going to be generating so much heat. So the heat sink on it's probably going to be massive. It's probably going to be a triple fan. Like we've already. It's funny. I really enjoy watching things like I don't know if either of you guys watch like Linus Tech Tips. And things like that on YouTube. I really enjoy watching theirs, and you see it when they get like these humongous graphics cards, and sometimes they don't even fit in the case. They're that big, or they're that big and heavy now that they've got to come with their own like bars to help keep them upright because they're just bending down due to gravity because they're that bloody heavy. And then this thing is probably going to be even bigger again since.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've got an overclocked 3080 in my machine. I have to have a GPU support bracket. I have one to keep it up, keep the weight of it from bending the motherboard already. Mine's a triple fan. It has an absolutely enormous heatsink. It's like close to PS5 levels of heatsink, original PS5 heatsink. And it actually stays very cool, which is great. But that's because it's drawing a lot of power, and it's got free big
that cost, wouldn't you?
Exactly, yeah, free big fans. It already needs 2 8-pin connectors, which is basically the first or amongst the first GPUs that have needed that amount of power draw. Usually, you just need 1 8-pin or maybe a 6-pin back in the day. So, I mean, the one thing that is good is that they're shrinking the nanometer process in terms of the die size of the GPU with the 4000 series, which means that effectively you can cool it much more effectively with a smaller, in theory, heatsink. But nonetheless, it's still going to be really big, because these cards are drawing enormous amounts of power, and power means heat. So I would expect them to be at least as big as the 30 series, but probably on for the 4090 Ti, 4090, probably bigger. So not hugely bigger, but they will be bigger. I mean, these are cards that, I mean, my, the 3080 I've got, it's not that far away from being the size of something like a Series S, maybe, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a million miles away. It's absolutely, I remember the day I took it out of the box, it was like a newborn in size. It was just absolutely, I had a 2080 Ti before, and the size difference was astronomical. It was just so large. So, so I thought I'd mix it up with some PCMR stuff, and maybe next week we'll find out more information. Or they're going to announce it this year, so we'll find out then. And Jensen will be on stage for Nvidia, holding it in, I don't know, some sort of rucksack.
Is he going to bring out of an
how big
oven
it is.
this time?
Yeah, I don't think it'll fit in the oven, will it?
Yeah.
Given the size, you have to bring it out of a camper van. Yeah, so it's gonna be really interesting. But it's really exciting, I guess, in terms of technology, and the kind of obviously these are dedicated GPUs, but the power differential has already become massive between the enthusiast PC hardware space and the current PS5 Series X, and only when they released PS5 Series X, they obviously the 30 series stronger and more powerful, but they were kind of holding their own with that level. But now it's just, again, 2 years down the line, it's just outstripping it again. And that's not to say that those consoles won't perform extremely well, because they will, but how do you compete when someone's saying, well, you can buy a 4090 Ti for 4 times the price of a PlayStation 5? Obviously it's going to be more powerful, but it's really interesting. And that's one component.
And then obviously keep the PC Master Race train going for a little bit longer. You've obviously got DDR5, which is more expensive. Again, you've got the new Intel 12,000 series, which seem to be, particularly the top end i9, I think it's i9, are unbelievably difficult to cool. Like even some water coolers, AIOs struggle to cool those things. It's pretty crazy what's happening. I think it's crazy, but I think it's exciting. Because you just want these hardware manufacturers thing just to go nuts. You want them to kind of just push the boundaries, and any sort of new hardware, whether it be consoles or GPUs or mini consoles or handhelds, whatever, anything like that is pretty exciting. But I think the best news from the GPU perspective, Luke, is just the price of things in generally coming down.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. Yeah.
I saw an advert for a GPU that had been discounted beneath RRP last week, which was absolutely bonkers. Because I bought my laptop that I've got at the moment. I bought that just a couple of months ago, and I've been holding out for bloody ages, hoping that GPU prices would crash a bit, and it didn't happen. And then so I thought, right, I'm just going to buy a laptop, because it was actually probably the most economic way to get a 30 series card. Obviously it's not a full fat desktop one, but it's got a 3060 in it, so it's decent enough. And then just recently the prices have just absolutely plummeted to the point where I was reading that, and it's funny because you mentioned the 4090 Ti being the one that Nvidia are considering releasing that one first and holding off on the 60, 70, and 80 series, because they've basically got an abundance of stock of the 30 series hardware at the moment, which is unbelievable when you consider where we were just 6, 12, 18 months ago. It's crazy, thanks to the crypto crash, I guess. But things have changed very, very quickly in that space.
I completely agree. I mean, I've been looking at components anyway, because I'm trying to build my wife a PC, a proper gaming PC, because she really wants, well, she has one, but she wants like a proper upgrade. Looking at different components, and it was the first time in probably a year and a half that I actually looked at the GPU pages on some of these websites. I was looking through, and it was just amazing to see everything was available. You could buy anything. And you could buy it all at retail price. It was just incredible. Because I remember when the 30 series came out, and for about a year thereafter, you just couldn't find these things. They were as rare as PlayStation 5 were. And if you could find them, even retailers were putting them up to, maybe 2 times RRP, or 40% more than RRP. It's just crazy. So it's great. It's great for everyone now that we're at that place where these things are available. They're available for normal prices. So it means that anybody getting into this can enjoy it, really. So and go away, BMG. This is real gaming. PCMR is the purest form.
The OG.
The OG. But we will talk about something else now.
Yeah. Very quickly on that. Go on, Pucks.
I was just going to say, one thing I do find exciting about that news is, like, as great as it all is, like console gamers will benefit in the long run, because even though it's easy to say that, the next gen consoles have just arrived and they're being superseded already, like that's natural, that will happen.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's the rapid rate of how things are increasing now. Because I think there was some stagnation kind of in the late 2010s, wasn't there, about where technology was going and what they were trying to improve next, or things were taking longer than they arguably would have or should have done, I guess, in Moore's law and all that, in terms of how things would improve and where they would improve. And the industry's moved in different ways. But at a hardware level, like just hearing that those developments are happening already, like, the next gen, as we're in current gen, anticipate that to be 6-7 years from now, perhaps. And just think, if that's happening 2 years into the current gen life cycle already, by the time our next gen comes along, like, it's going to be much more phenomenal in terms of what's available into raw power and what you can actually get out of games. Like, I just find it really exciting. That's all I'm really saying.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, I think that's fair, Pucks. Maybe to try and bring it back to like console gaming and Xbox a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nvidia doing this really means AMD kind of have to step it up. They've been behind Nvidia for as long as I can remember now in the GPU space, and when it comes to PC, haven't they? So they really kind of have to step it up from that perspective. But also, Nvidia, we've got to remember, they power the Switch.
They do.
So
They do, yeah.
what capabilities is the next Nintendo hardware we're going to have if Nvidia are able to pump out that sort of performance? I appreciate the Switch isn't going to have 4090 Ti levels of performance, but it's
they just need to make a mobile version.
Yeah, but is it feasible that it's been spoken about in the past? Is the next Switch going to have like DLSS? Is it going to have ray tracing? And things like that, which is very much possible. So it's exciting to see how that trickles down into the console space in whatever way, indirectly or directly, in the years to come.
I don't think we'll see the Switch with ray tracing or the next successor. I don't think ray tracing will be there on that one, assuming it's coming out in, say, the next 3 years from now, because we're far beyond, not far beyond, but we're more than halfway through the average life cycle of the system now. So I don't know. I just don't think Nintendo would do it. I think they would they'll try to keep the cost down to make it more accessible, and by doing that, bin off those capabilities, because I think a lot of games that Switch players play won't necessarily require so much power.
That's fair. I mean, give me a Pokemon game with path tracing. That'll be the dream. Then again, that'll be Pokemon running at 14 FPS like it normally does anyway. So it would just be like a realistic Pokemon experience at that point.
I don't know. I don't think they'll maybe not ray tracing. They'll definitely do DLSS.
Yeah,
definitely. Because they need to keep pace at the very minimum with resolution. So I think they will do that. But the problem, I guess, the problem with Nintendo, and I think Pux, you alluded to it, is, and it's not a problem, but it's just you have to bear this in mind, is that the available technology when the Switch came out, in terms of Nvidia's mobile chipset, was a lot more capable than what they put in the Switch. What they put in the Switch was essentially a bit of a stripped down Tegra X1. You're many iterations beyond that now, so they could actually put in something that's really powerful and capable. And if anything, something like the Steam Deck shows you, obviously that's from AMD, but it shows you how incredible mobile PC hardware can effectively be, mobile hardware, gaming hardware can be. But Nintendo just won't do that, because they have a particular model, and they've not done, I think they still have PTSD about the GameCube, and they don't want to compete in that space anymore. So I can't see them really pushing it, but it will definitely be a significant upgrade over the Switch. Even if they just go to the Tegra X2 and they strip it back a little bit, that's a big leap over what they currently have. And if they get DLSS, then that's awesome, because I think everybody can agree the one problem with the Switch, especially now, is that when you put it on, when you dock it and you put it on a big TV, 50 inches plus, it looks garbage. A lot of the 3D games just do not look good, which is one of the reasons why I only play it in handheld, because having it on a small screen makes it look a lot better. So that will help with that. and certainly it's not going to compete visually for what the PS5 and Series X pushing out, but it should narrow the gap a little bit, which I think is what people want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, look, the Steam Deck is kind of like maybe a glimpse into maybe what performance-wise the Switch could do. And when you consider how good some Switch games look on Switch, particularly Nintendo's first-party games,
yeah, definitely,
it's pretty exciting, that actually. So yeah, maybe to round the shot a little bit, unless there's anything anyone else wants to chat about, we'll maybe just briefly touch. I don't think we need to spend too much time on it, but to bring it back to Xbox a little bit, it's probably worth mentioning the financial results that Microsoft posted that came out just in the past couple of days, which I was a little bit surprised about, to be honest. I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to check them out, but I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of financial analyst or anything like that. So do check out the likes of Dom's Playing and people like that on Twitter who post them and are very good at explaining what all the numbers mean. But I think the main headline is, while revenue was down, I think year on year, which I don't think is too surprising. I think a lot of companies worldwide are seeing sort of dips this year compared to the previous years, as like the pandemic bump that a lot of these companies got sort of wears off. But I think the headline really is that they've had their best financial year to date at Xbox, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as you say, they were pretty much down in every segment, but that wasn't a surprise for, one, the reason that you suggested, and two, that they forecasted that, so they knew that was coming. Yeah. But nonetheless, it was still their highest gaming revenue in any financial year that they've ever had. So continues to show that they are making a real success of this. And things that there's still, their growth areas are still growing, as they would be. I think it's really positive. And it's really positive for Microsoft as well, because they don't, at least in terms of big bumper games to attract you to their platforms, whether that's a console or more broadly Game Pass, they don't, there's nothing out there. So that's a
really good point, Luke.
Yeah, so they're still really doing really well. So when that stuff does happen, they're going to have pretty big revenue spikes, I would think, over the course of the next few years as that stuff starts to drop, and they'll just maintain the momentum they have. So it's, I think a lot of people saw that and said, oh, that's not good, because hardware's down, services are down, all of this stuff down. But of course, what you have to bear in mind is that you're coming down from a period where consumer spending on games hardware, services, games themselves, accessories, was at basically one of the highest points it's ever been. And a lot of that was due to the pandemic, because people spent less, so they had more disposable income, and they were all indoors. So they started looking at consoles, games, etc. So a lot of that disposable income went on games. You still had a bump as you came out of the pandemic, because people were, still really interested in games and stuff. But now you're entering, a period of economic uncertainty. Inflation's ridiculous at the moment, so disposable income is at a premium. And if you do have any, if you're lucky to have any, then the things you're going to spend it on aren't necessarily games. You might actually move more towards essentials at the moment. So everyone's going to be down in the gaming industry to a greater or lesser extent. So it's not a negative. It was forecasted. It's still really good financial results, and will get better over time. So thumbs up. They did well. Yeah,
absolutely. A couple of things that came out that I thought were interesting. They did announce a couple of little stats. So the first one was that Fortnite has had 4 million players on cloud since they announced the that was the first game that didn't require to have a Game Pass Ultimate subscription, which I think sounds like a decent number without knowing too much more about what the expectations were around it. I thought that was at least, like I say, face value seemed decent. They announced that Game Pass subs had grown and offset some of the decline in the other things. They didn't announce a new figure though, so I think it's safe to assume it hasn't quite hit that 30 mil mark just yet. Otherwise, I suspect they would have used this probably as an opportunity to announce it. But it has. They did say it continued to grow, and yeah, as you say, Luke, it's. They've done all this despite the fact that they haven't really had an awful lot to shout about on the first party side of things. And Satya Nadella, and I think it was in they do like a post financial sort of investor call afterwards. I think it was announced in there, but they kind of confirmed that still they've sold more consoles life to date for the series consoles than they have any other previous console generation that they've had. So obviously the 360 was easily the most popular of the three consoles they released. That obviously sold really well, estimated sort of around 90 million, I think, in the end. And they're tracking ahead of that at the moment, which I think is, and that's despite the hardware shortages they've had. I think that's really something that they should feel positive about. But they really just need to start getting these games out, because it could probably be a hell of a lot better if they were able to start getting a couple of these games out that were unfortunately delayed. So yeah, things do seem pretty positive. And yeah, actually one more thing, this obviously doesn't even include Activision Blizzard as part of that. So revenue is only likely to go up this time next year, I suspect, providing Activision Blizzard is close by then, which I know they're expected to be. So yeah, pretty positive all around, I think. Pux, did you have any particular thoughts on that, mate? Did anything that they announced as part of the financials stand out, or anything to yourself, mate?
No, not really, I'm afraid. I'm one of those people in the camp where, apart from just reading a very brief breakdown of, I think as you guys have already mentioned, that yes, the numbers are down, but the Xbox stuff's doing well still, and it's projected to do well. A lot of it goes over my head, if I'm perfectly honest. So I try to understand it, but equally, I'm not a finance person at all. So I will be honest, I don't spend too much of my time trying to understand it. I kind of just read a brief rundown, which you guys already said when we've gone through. But no, I kind of mirror what you guys have said, really. It's kind of expected things are going to go down, as Luke already said. Pandemic, no one had any money to spend anything on rather than things like gaming. So that's what people did, hence why it was up. And I think it was always projected that it would come down at some point in the near future. And I think we're now hitting that time. So I think it's all within projection from how I understand it. And it's just going to stabilize out as things move on and become more normal again. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say on it, really. I'm afraid not too many thoughts on it. I have to
It's always difficult with those conversations. I am very conscious because I'm not an expert by any stretch. So I try not to give too many opinions. I try to stick to the fact. And there's a couple of really good guys on Twitter, actually. Like I said, Dom's Plains is one of them. I think... I can't remember his name. His name's There's a couple of guys who are really good. I think it's John Welfare, who's part of the Install Base forum, which was kind of like they split off from Reset Era to focus purely on this sort of thing. Are really good at posting this sort of information in language that even a dumb like me can understand, because a lot of it goes over my head. But the headlines, obviously, Microsoft are filthy rich. They're a giant corporation. They've got a shit ton of money. Obviously, some of the figures from the other sectors of Microsoft were just mind-boggling amounts of money. Like I think there was 50 billion in the quarter alone or something. Yeah. So
is that it?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's almost Activision Blizzard just in one quarter from Microsoft alone. Yeah, the figures are truly mind-boggling. But yeah, did any of the news pieces stand out to you guys this week? I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of the PS Plus news that was announced, new games, or the news about Yakuza, or if you've had a chance to scan through any of the Annapurna news. That's come up while I've been chatting. Is there anything else that's taken anyone's fancy?
I suppose as you now mentioned it, I just kind of remembered it as you said about the new PS Plus, PS Plus Yakuza releases, and how it seems a bit bizarre that they've split some titles between the premium only service and the extra tier, whatever it's called. That was a bit bizarre, wasn't it? I wonder why they're doing that. Well, to get people to get onto premium, I guess that must be the obvious answer.
Yes. So I found it really odd when I first heard it, because I think so. Someone explained it to us that the premium tier also includes classics. Now, when I originally heard that, I thought classic meant PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games. I thought those were the classics, but they're actually PS4 games that they count as classics, which is the Yakuza games, because they're remasters of PS3 or PS2 games. I don't know how far they go back. So Luke, please interrupt if any of this is inaccurate. So because those particular titles were considered classics because they're remakes of older games, they're part of the premium tier and not part of the extra tier, which I do find a little bizarre, to be honest, because they've got the three tiers, well, obviously just essential, extra, premium, and they've got the Yakuza games basically split across them. So Like a Dragon's in Plus, you get that in Plus this month, and then the other games are kind of scattered between the two tiers, which I found a little bizarre, and I didn't actually realize that they were doing it, but apparently there's a few other titles that kind of fall into that category at the moment. So look, you've got extra, or have you got premium?
I've got premium.
You went for the full fat version. So was this whole classics thing something that interested you? Is that one of the reasons you went for premium, or did you go for premium for kind of the older catalog stuff? Like I say, it was news to me when I read it.
Yeah, I don't even think I noticed too much when I grabbed it. It's quite interesting. I mean, I went for it to just try it more than anything. That's not to say I'll keep it. It's certainly a very good service, I think. But your mileage in that kind of, it doesn't right now have the same mileage as Game Pass, I guess, particularly at the premium levels, because obviously, I mean, beyond the day and date stuff, depends on how into the ecosystem you are anyway, because if you're buying a lot of the first party games, as I was, like, that's kind of the main advantage, the older first party PlayStation 5 stuff. The classic stuff there's some really good stuff on there. It's been really cool to play, although I tried to play Siphon Filter the other day because I remembered how much I loved it, and oh my god, that game has not aged well.
Tank controls, is it?
It's not tank controls would be better than what it is.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah, it's like controlling a tractor in a field of shit. Basically, it's terrible. Movement in general is just something that's difficult for the main character to do. I don't think he's really suited for some kind of international, spy. He should just be confined to a nursing home or something. But anyway, it's really bad. But they've got some really good stuff in there, and they've got a lot of varied stuff as well. The Yakuza stuff was really weird. I'm actually really excited about them bringing those things. I mean, they're still on Game Pass, right? Like, some of them are still on Game Pass. Am I wrong?
I think
some of them came back recently. Yeah, the Kiwami.
Yeah.
Two, and
So I think it's a win-win. Well, it's not, because it's not a win-win if you're on PlayStation, because first of all, they're not there at the moment, and secondly, when they are there, it's not as if you can just jump into any one, because, as you say, they're segmented across the service, and I do find the justification of why they're segmented really strange, as you explained, Scott. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Because these aren't like classic games. I think of classic like Tekken 2, or something like that. Not a game from 10 years ago or whatever. So but it is cool that they're coming, and people will get to experience them. Obviously, it will add more value to the service when they do. But yeah, I think there's some. I think also the one thing I would say is that we don't know, how much the publisher are influencing where these things are put.
That's fair. Yeah,
I think people assume that Sony have said, "Oh, right, okay, yes, we'll take all of these and we'll split them across," and maybe they have, but we don't know what the terms of the arrangement are with the publisher. So Yeah, but it's still, either way, it doesn't really matter because it's not great for the end user of these services, particularly if you're on, extra, let's say, and you need to upgrade to premium just to get free of the games. I think that's kind of bullshit, really. But yeah, we'll see. I hope they don't do stuff like this consistently, because I think there's ways and means of pushing people up into a high service. I don't think this is one of them. And really, how many people are actually going to move service for Yakuza to play old Yakuza games? I don't actually think that's many people. So what's the point? Is one of the questions.
That's fair. I guess it's the way that they've done it, because it's Zero Kiwami, which is the 1 remake, and then Kiwami 2, which is the 2 remake, that are in the extra tier, and then it's 3, 4, 5, and 6 that are on the premium tier. So if you do end up playing the first 3 games and think, oh fuck, I really like these games, to continue, you got to upgrade. Which like I say, I was a little bit surprised that they've done that. Like I would find it weird if Game Pass had games locked behind Ultimate. Now obviously they've got kind of like DLC, like the Gears Hive Busters, but I think that kind of makes sense. It's DLC, but none of the games are locked behind Ultimate, at least as far as I'm aware. Obviously everything is included in Game Pass. So it was just a little jarring to read it. But the one thing I will say, have either of you guys played Like a Dragon?
Yes.
I started it.
I haven't finished it, but I got quite a far way in and then reached a difficulty spike, and I got so ticked off of it that I know exactly the game down, and I haven't finished it yet, but I'm near the end. But I did really enjoy the game though. Yeah. It's actually my first Yakuza game.
Same here. I don't like the originals. I'm not a fan of like the brawler combat, or however you would describe it. It's not really for me. And I know obviously the story's kind of where it's at with those games, but if the gameplay's not clicking, I'm probably not gonna to stick through it. So I'm actually I'm not interested in the other games, but Like a Dragon's amazing.
I oddly really liked it because I've been quite vocal in the past on this show and otherwise that I'm not a massive fan of turn-based combat outside of specific games which I think do it well. I think Pokemon's a great example, at least in my book. But yeah, Like a Dragon, the way that the turn-based combat just kind of felt to play and how it just kind of operated in general, I just really vibed with it, I guess is one way to put it. And I really enjoyed it. But I've actually watched my wife play Yakuza 0, and at some point I do tell myself that I'll go in and play it at some point, but I've got such a back catalogue anyway. I just don't think I'm ever going to get to it, if I'm perfectly honest. I do have, speaking of the classic stuff, I do have a bit of a legal question for Luke, actually. I think you're as our resident expert. I don't know how to word it. It's a bit of a weird one. So in terms, because there's so many... Okay, so regarding the classics, I should say, more around PS1/PS2, I know there's been kind of this notion that Sony over time want to expand and add to those libraries. I'm going to focus more on PS1 here for longevity's sake for a reason, but a lot of games from back then, which a load of people seem to love and adore, which were arguably quite popular as well, there's a load of games like that which were made by small developers or small outfits which simply don't exist anymore. So how does licensing work in those kind of regards? Does it then become impossible because no one holds the license, or because of the fact no one holds the license, does that mean that they're free to port them or emulate them in some fashion to the classic service? Like, how does that kind of side of it work? So, many people request, please put this and that game on the service, but if they're made by a small outfit which no longer exists and the license was all on them, how does that work?
Well, roughly speaking, if nobody owns the license at all, then over a certain period of time, copyright, trademark, etc., everything that gives the game its worth, which includes all of its code, will become public domain. So in that case, Sony would be able to, if they wanted to, port the game. But of course,
does that mean that we as the public are also free to access all of it in its entirety as well?
Yes, but the problem with that is it assumes that there is readily available code for the game with which to work with. For some of these really small games, they might be free for the public to use already, but where is it? In the sphere of data in the world, where is it kept?
So dare I say, I know I appreciate legally and from an open point of view, you wouldn't do it, but people have dumped almost every existing game under the sun on the web somewhere. So if you could get a hold of a file, which is the title, could that be done, or would it have to be the original source?
I guess in theory it could be done, but the bigger question would be, would Sony want to do that?
Yeah, sure.
It's a lot of effort. A lot of things could go wrong. And really for the types of games that people want, I'm sure that someone is still a license holder somewhere. It would be very strange if it was just in the ether, not belonging to anyone. So they'll pick and choose. And I think certainly right now they want to kind of focus on, nostalgia hits, the big games that people remember from back then, and being able to get solid working versions of them. So I don't know if we'll see any of not the indie games from back then, but that kind of level of niche, as it were. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. But the amount of effort, are Sony going to want to dig around?
So many legal loopholes to get through.
To find that,
not worth the effort.
It's just not worth the effort for drawing people to the service and for getting the game on there. So probably not.
Yeah. Aren't there examples of Nintendo having used ROMs for their Switch Online service?
Yeah. I can't remember which ones, but there are certain ones they have used ROMs for.
Yeah. Which is funny. I think one of them is because they've done something actually pretty cool, I think, where they've kind of released like modded versions of old games. And I think there may be examples where they've used ROMs of their games in the solutions, which I always find pretty funny. But Puxley, I can maybe add a little bit to that. It's funny. I don't know if either of you guys watch Kyle Bossman's show, former Easy Allies guy, but he did an episode, I'll try to pick it out and I'll send it, where he talked about like a game that was kind of like one of the old games that you would get with like a cereal box or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It was obviously a really basic 2D game, and he actually spoke about how kind of like, I believe the rights to the game kind of expired, so then anybody could just kind of go and use it. And then the game that he ended up playing was this game that was based on an original game that kind of just got lost, and anybody could just do what they want with, which was actually pretty fascinating. But I think Luke's right when he says kind of they're probably not lost sort of in the ether. The problem is probably someone through kind of some sort of acquisition at some point, whether it be buying assets when a company's been liquidated, probably owns the rights, doesn't really know about it, doesn't really care, but does own it somewhere. That basically makes it impossible for the likes of Microsoft and Sony to do, because obviously Microsoft basically ran out of games to port from a legal and technical perspective, which is probably because maybe it's unknown who owns the rights to a particular game, because companies have been and gone, unfortunately. So
yeah, I also think as well, and I can't recall, but I think exactly, but I think for the US in particular, so if you have a US copyright, the copyright protection is pretty gigantic. So I think it's something like, it depends on what's happened with the thing that has been copyrighted, in this case the game, but I think if you create a copyright after something like somewhere in the 1970s, then that copyright is valid for the lifetime of whoever created it plus 70 years or something like that. So, if you created a game in 1991 and you copyrighted it in the US, you're not going to see that technically become public domain until, after 2100. Certain other copyrights are a bit, laws in different jurisdictions are not as aggressive as the US, so it becomes public use a bit quicker, but it's quite difficult. And there is bound to be, as Scott said, someone out there who owns it, and the process for some of these niche games of tracking that down might be very difficult. I mean, there are copyright registers, etc., but it's not a super straightforward process.
Yeah. Am I right? I know we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but you might know this. Am I right in thinking that Disney somehow have a lot of influence over that? Because I remember reading something about Mickey Mouse should technically be in the public domain because he's that bloody old now, but Disney are able to continue keeping it out somehow. I can't remember how they've got around it. I remember reading something about that when I kind of went down one of those rabbit holes a while back.
I think I read the similar article actually, Scott. Because Winnie the Pooh recently went open domain or public domain, didn't it? And then there's like a Winnie the Pooh horror film out now. Have you seen these advertised?
Oh Christ, no!
And it looks horrific. Like, just Google it. I can't even just begin to describe it. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think, I think you're right on the Mickey Mouse one. I think he's apparently enters public domain in 2024.
I believe isn't that it's the old design though, isn't it? It's not the kind of current iteration, I believe.
Correct. Yeah. So it's the original Mickey Mouse character that you'll be able to use. But,
right. Okay.
Essentially, it's the problem is that I guess Disney are also protected by other legal concepts like passing off and stuff like that, because they could technically argue that if you used Mickey Mouse that you're sort of passing off as Disney, or because Mickey Mouse is so associated with Disney, it's almost impossible now to disassociate that character from Disney.
Yeah.
Which is why even when he enters the public domain, they'll still be very rigorous in defending various the IP of Mickey Mouse effectively. So that's Disney. And I mean, you'll be able to do stuff with stuff like that, but it'll be limited.
Yeah, I'm just having reading a quick article there. Yeah, I think I guess the thing is would you risk it as a company? Would you risk getting that letter from Disney's lawyers?
Yeah,
because I'm assuming, as you say, like, there would be ways that they could come after you if you try to use that. And they're one of the biggest companies in the world. You wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of them.
No, plus it's just the original design of Mickey, effectively. So like
the 1930s one, whatever it is.
The original black and white
Steamboat,
one.
One.
Yeah.
So
Mortimer, whatever it was called back then. Yeah.
Well, yeah, God knows. So yes, any use of any other Mickey Mouse will be met with a swift legal letter.
Yeah, try to avoid them if you can. Try not to get called on by Disney's lawyers or any lawyers.
Yeah,
for
any lawyers in general.
A top tip
for
tonight's episode. Yeah, try to avoid involving yourself with lawyers. We're in too deep with Luke. We're gone. We're already involved with this one, but try to avoid other ones if you can.
Yeah, if at all possible, just shun them from society if you can. Do the best you can with that, but they will come back quoting legal precedent probably.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think maybe what we'll do there then, gents, we're coming up close in on the 2-hour mark. Maybe we'll just wrap up there for this evening. I think maybe just to close things off, just want to thank everyone's in chat. A few other people have joined since we first did a few call outs. So we've had the likes of Back from the Dead, Pyro, Saint Irv, Andrew, Cullinans joined us as well. So thank you very much, everyone who's been in the chat tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the show. It's probably worth maybe just touching on Flap a little bit. Not that there's much to touch on. Obviously, Flap hasn't been on the show the past couple of weeks. He's just a busy guy. There's nothing more. He hasn't retired or anything. He's just a little busy. I'm sure Flap will be back on the show as soon as he's ready. From what he's told us, he's just absolutely stacked at work. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be back soon. But in the meantime, we'll obviously be trying to keep his seat warm. We'll probably just rotate between the three of us for the next few weeks. We will probably have a full slot free though, so we are going to try and maybe get a couple of guests on. I know we've got Ash on the chat. I've been speaking to Ash about getting him on. So if anyone would like to see anyone in particular on the show, please pop it in the podcast suggestions channel within our Discord. Little plug for that there. Links in the description, and we'll hopefully be able to get some guests on the show going forward. So Pyro, I don't have the basement key. Pux actually has the basement key. I'm too far north to be holding on any keys to Flap's basement. So but thank you very much, gents for joining. Pux, did you enjoy the show, mate?
Yes, it was really good. Thanks. Apologies again for tuning in a little bit later than the original start time, but no, I've really enjoyed tonight. I've really liked this more low-key format that we've got going forward, and I know you and the community have said that you like this format as well, so this is definitely something that we intend to continue doing for the near term at least. So no, keep your feedback coming in. We really appreciate it.
Lovely. And Luke, thank you very much, mate. Did you have some fun tonight?
I did, yes. This was the start of my plan to turn this into a PC show. That's gone well. So I'll keep that going, and hopefully we'll have 2 hours of PC topics.
We'll just have to have that spin-off show.
Yeah.
GPG,
exactly.
PCMR. Just a big acronym. So for shame though, Luke, no indie in the chat to back you up on the PCMR stuff.
No, I know.
Normally he's there right in your corner when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, in my time of need. He's just jealous because he got a Steam Deck and he's still waiting for his. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. He's just a salty little boy, isn't he? He can't get over it just yet. So
sad, really. It's really sad. I feel sorry for him.
It is. Hopefully he listens back and hears this a bit later. So, well, I think with that, just a couple of other things to wrap things off. Like I said, if you are interested, please check out our Discord. The link's in the description. We continue the conversation through the week about whatever's going on in the world on there. Our links for Twitter are in the description as well. So please, if you're not already, feel free to check us out on there. Drop us a follow. And then also, I guess the thing everyone kind of has to say at this point is if you have liked the show, please do drop us a little bit of a like. Please subscribe, please share. As Pucks mentioned on Sunday's show, we are slowly creeping towards that 1,000 subs mark, which would be pretty incredible to be fair to say we get to that point. So if you do think a friend or family member would enjoy the show, please recommend it, and hopefully they'll stick around. I've just seen them. Pyro, happy birthday, mate. It's my birthday next Friday actually, so we've got birthdays close together. So but with that, I think we will end the show. We'll obviously be in touch with everyone in the community around when our next show is. I suspect that will be next week. But other than that, thank you all very much, and we'll catch you on the next one.